Good morning. Good morning. I thought I would make a video on once again the state of the animation union or the animation industry. You all responded, so I guess I got quite a few views on the last one. So I thought I would say more, being someone who is a veteran in the business and been around a bit. Um, just thought I would share some things. The state of our industry, I know, has not been very promising of late. As I speak with you today, we are in 2025 now, and a lot of you younger folks I know have had your issues with the animation industry. There being some sporadic, no, well, not sporadicness, but a tremendous amount of sporadic activity as far as getting jobs. Some of you have run into that. There have been talks about it. Um, and I saw a video this morning where we're talking about outsourcing. Chris Newhan, who I don't know you, Chris. I haven't met you. Maybe I have. I don't recall. Anyway, I wanted to add to something to what Chris said because I felt that once again he was right on the money about a lot of stuff, as well as Steven Silver, who I responded while we were replying also to Steve about his feelings about the things that are going on in our industry right now. And to refresh, I am retired, so in some ways, I guess I don't count as much because I'm not working, in the industry at the moment. I've been retired for about 5 years now, and but I still do animation projects, and I still enjoy it. I guess the thing that I wanted to kind of bring up here was that both Steve and Chris are telling you all the exact things that you need to hear. I was a director and a producer at Warner Brothers for a number of years, among all the other jobs that I did. I worked at Disney as an animation artist. I was a breakdown in-betweener assistant at Disney, and then I eventually animated stuff at Disney. I was never labeled an animator, but I got my training there, and I did animate and do work at Disney for 4 years in the feature department. And then I came back later to work at Disney as a storyboard artist on a lot of their direct to video movies. And I've worked for Disney for off and on for many years, and DreamWorks and more. But, so I worked in the business. I've worked in the business for 45 years. So I have a lot of experience at every studio. Richard Williams was another one that I worked with. So I have a lot of experience as an animator, as a story artist, as a layout artist, and of course as a director and a producer. So I think the thing because I would imagine a lot of you young folks would probably be listening to some of us old guys and saying, well, gee, what's the things don't look so good, or maybe what the hell, maybe I should get out of this business, or I want to be an animator, but the animation business doesn't seem so great right now. Well, let me just say this. When I came into this business 45 years ago in the late 70s, actually, now that I think about it, all the animation studios were run by artists. Can you imagine that? All the animation studios were run by artists. Maybe Disney might have been the only one that wasn't, and it was a fairly big company. And then Hanna Barbera, you know, um, Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera were there, and Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera were artists. They used to be artists when they worked at MGM before they formed their Hanna Barbera studios. There were a lot of small studios that did commercials. Um, there must have been a dozen, maybe a half a dozen, if not a dozen, small studios, and some of these were run by guys who were ex Disney animators or ex MGM animators. I remember, I believe Mike Law had a studio. Bill Melendez, he did the Snoopy, the Peanuts. He had a studio. Abel Levito, I believe, had a studio. Dave DePatie worked with Fritz Freeling. They had a studio. There were a lot of studios, and they were all run pretty much by artists. So you could get a job because you could walk in a studio with your portfolio and show them your drawings, and you could get hired because they didn't have recruitment back then. The way it worked was you walked if you could draw, if you had any kind of talent, you could get a job. Imagine that. Okay. Now, why am I bringing all this up? I'll tell you why. Because the face of the industry, of course, is completely different today. You know, corporations run everything, the big companies run everything, and animation is changed in terms of how it's done. So everything that Chris is telling you is right. Everything that Stephen was saying, a lot of what Stephen said was right on the money. The paradigm has changed, and so the way things are now, there is the way that the situation would keep them. So in other words, the outsourcing and all that. The studios aren't going to turn away from something that works for them. They're just going to keep doing what they've been doing. My point for bringing this up was we didn't have this problem before. We have it now, and we don't have to have it in the future. But what's going to have to happen in order for that to change is something that I think I might have brought up in my last video, where we, the artists, have to take back the animation medium, take back animation, and also become business minded. And what I'm saying is not an easy thing. It's not like, oh, tomorrow we're going to go out and do it. Well, it's not quite as simple as that. But the very fact that it existed at all means that it could exist this way now. You know, back in the day, you said Disney, for instance, was maybe like the studio. Everybody wanted to work for it. But you have to think about it, that Walt Disney was an artist, and his brother was the business guy. But they were very artist friendly, so they were interested in promoting the art form and having artists, and there was a great sympathy toward the quality of what an artist could produce. It's not to say studios don't appreciate talent, but they're more interested in making money, and they want to pay the least amount to get the most work. And yeah, we have AI to help us. And, it's obvious that things were going to advance and get better. And with animation being as labor intensive as it is, it's obvious, like Chris was saying, that if you were pulling your cart with a donkey and somebody came along and invented a car, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to use the car, right? Of course. But that doesn't mean that the quality of what you do as an artist goes away. It just means that just like technology's changed things, we have to change as well. We have to change how we do what we do. And this is the other reason why I believe that artists have to become more business minded. We have been content to do our jobs. We're content to do our jobs, which is great. There was a film that was made at the Disney company after I left called Wake. I think it was called Waking Sleeping Beauty or something like that. And it was a documentary about everything that happened to the Disney machine after it was taken over by the corporate heads, and how the artists were just interested in making the quality what they were doing, but underneath them, in a sense, their legs were being kind of cut out from underneath them. And so in other words, what it showed that these people it was basically a love letter written to artists to say, well, this is how things were so good, weren't they? It's too bad that it's not like that, or whatever. Well, that's because, once again, we didn't change with the business, and the reason why we didn't was because we're not business minded. I'm saying this to the young folks out there who are interested in being business minded, is that if you want to see the industry change and be more sympathetic to artists, what you have to do is you have to speak the language of what the companies that pay the money for the product want to hear. If you can produce something and you can produce it at a reasonable cost, and you can also distribute your own work, and you have a pipeline of your own, and you're making profit and you're doing well, they'll come looking for you, because then you will be a competitor. Right now, see, they know they're in the driver's seat. They know even if you have a great idea, you could have the best animation idea ever, okay? And if you walk into Netflix the best situation you're probably going to have is you can have maybe some kind of a deal where you get a certain amount of money for your idea to protect your intellectual property, whatever, and you get a contract that pays you, and they may not even want you on the project, but you might walk away with some money, which is fine, I guess. But the companies know that they know how they're going to get it done. But you're an artist thinking, I just would like to, I got this idea, I'd like to make it. Okay. Well, here's the thing. And I said this to myself years ago. I said, I asked the question to myself, why would somebody want to give me money to do what I like to do? And I thought about that. I said, well, what if and I brought it down to something that I could understand. Like, well, let's say I wanted to do a cartoon drawing right now, right? But I didn't have any paper, I didn't have any pencil or anything. And there's people in this room. So I go up to some guy with a tie on it. I can see he's probably got some money. And I say, look, you seem like you're a nice, rich or wealthy person. Would you give me $20 so I can go buy some paper and pencils and draw something? And I'll draw it for you. And okay, well, he might say okay, he might not, because he realizes that he is in the driver's seat of my career, right? Because I'm basically saying I can't do anything without your help. Well, that's kind of where we are as artists. We have to come out of that place, and we have to show what we have to show is that we don't need that help. What we need to do is we need to think the same way they do. Because see, I said this, I think, in one of the last videos. We're the ones with the ideas. We're the ones with the creativity, not the executives. They are interested in making money. Well, you would think they were. Some of what's going on today makes me wonder just exactly what are they interested in, but that's another whole conversation. Nevertheless, what that means then is we need to come at this from a different angle. So this is where I was saying that some of you young folks could get together and do something or do your own things. And Stephen had talked about something similar to that effect. And I think that's a good idea to, to get yourself kind of started in a direction, because I think at some point you have to make a decision that you're going to get involved as an artist making something of your own, and that you have to, figure out how are you going to make that idea, how you're going to carry it through to a finished thing, and also not only that, but how are you going to market it? How are you going to distribute it? How are you going to get it out there? And this is where we as artists are going to have. This is where we are, because the way things are now, like Chris said, they won't change. They've been outsourcing and all that. They're going to keep doing that because that's what they do. But I guarantee you, if a bunch of you young folks or us old guys or whatever got together, did something, and now we'd have to do it with our own money. We'd have to take our own risks. But let's say we were able to do something. Let's say we were able to get it out and actually make some profit. But we did it completely independently, outside of the system, outside of having to go to these big companies. We just go around them. You say, well, how do you do that? There's ways of doing it. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but yeah, I think maybe in one of my earlier videos I mentioned about Louis C.K., who made it. Louis C.K., of course, was a very wealthy comedian, and he made a movie. I forget what the movie was called, but he sold his movie as a download online on his website for like $10 or something. I don't know what he made for it, but I gotta think that as successful as Louis C.K. is, I gotta think he cleaned it up pretty well because he was smart enough to realize that instead of going through some streaming service, he cuts out the middleman. Now he had the money. He had to go and make a movie, but he was smart enough to advertise it on YouTube. So he got free advertising on YouTube and Instagram. And then he has his own website. People go to his website. They download his movie for like $10. No telling how many people did that. He had no distributor, middleman costs. All of that money came to him. What if he sold that to 1 million people? And there's no reason why he couldn't have. He could be sitting on $10 million or more that just comes directly to him. What's to say that any individual group of artists or artists do the same thing? Now, the difference is, of course, is your popularity. Like for instance, I know the Bancrofts. I know they're doing some stuff, and God bless them. I think they're probably going to be very successful. And there's others that are doing that. I'm doing my own stuff. I think this is what I'm saying is that we just have to start thinking differently. Now, you young folks, I know you're saying, "Well, no, man. I'm a young kid. I just need a job. Trying to pay my rent." Well, Chris said what he was saying about, well, just get a job, dude. Yeah, you know what? You may have to do something like that. You might not want to do it, but to live. And what he was talking about moving out of LA. Well, that's up to you. Um, because I don't know, maybe the industry maybe things will get a little better. It's possible. I'm a little more of an optimist in that I think that animation will always survive and there will always be a need for it because it does make money. So even though it's not the greatest situation, I think we will eventually see more production come up. And I know, yeah, I'm retired, so I don't have to worry about that, but I do care about it. And I am actually trying to contribute myself to do projects of my own and to encourage projects. And when I start doing stuff, when I get into a position where I'm able to actually hire people, I will, because I believe that we have to help each other. Okay. But the state of the business, the way it is, yeah, like Chris said, it's probably not going to change. And the way things get done, he laid that out nicely, and I certainly don't disagree. But I just wanted to be a little more hopeful for all of you young folks who are getting into this industry, to give you something a little more hope to look forward to. I am an optimist, I will say. I've always been an optimist, and so it's not over. And the very fact that animation has existed at all, considering how labor intensive and expensive it is, kind of proves to you there seems to be a real desire for it. The studios will pay the least amount they can pay for it, but believe you me, if you can figure a way around the system and still survive and succeed, they'll come looking for you. If tomorrow somebody, or shall I say more accurately, when someone does what I'm talking about, whether it's me or whoever it is, believe you me, the big companies will go, hey, who is this person? And they will come to you, and then you will be able to name your price. You're saying about, well, they don't want to pay this, they don't want to pay that. Believe you me, if they want it bad enough, they'll pay for it. Oh yeah. Yeah, the only reason why anybody gets a lot of money for something is because the studios and the companies realize these people are worth it. We're not going to get it any other way. That's just reality. You know, they don't have to pay that kind of money. That's why they won't. They outsource because they can, and they'll keep doing it. They'll use AI because they can. That's it. But see, what we do as artists is we adapt. Complaining about it won't change anything. Adapting, that's where you get them. Yeah, reality. I'm telling you, we're the creative ones. Okay, I look all around YouTube all the time, and I'm always seeing some of the most creative, beautiful stuff people are doing, and I'm sure it's a lot of you. God bless you. Well, keep doing it, but get a business sense. Matt and Trey Parker, I got to say, are two of the smartest guys I have ever seen. I remember when they first started South Park and they did that the Christmas special thing, and I remember I think I was working at Warner Brothers when it happened, and there was this videotape going around of that Christmas special that they did, which was one of their first shows, and then it was actually animated using cutouts, and of course later on they started using computers and everything. And I remember looking, it's like, these guys are freaking brilliant. They understand how to work the system. They immediately realize, well, if we're going to do something like this, we got to do it in the most economical, sensible way we can. And that's what they did. And I'll bet you these guys are using AI to make their new shows. See if they're adapting. They're adapting. Is that not business sense? Is that not creativity? Who's to say any of us couldn't do the same thing? You can't. We just don't because we're very content to just sit at our little desks and do what we do, and we're very good at it. And the system takes advantage of you. But see, when you understand how the system works, and you work the system, and you get a business sense, and you produce the stuff, and you're successful producing it without their help, that's when the whole thing changes in your favor. And believe you me, they could look at Genndy Tartakovsky. Genndy Tartakovsky is doing some of the finest animation stuff there is. Genndy is different from most of the folks producing stuff. I've never met the guy, but I think he's freaking brilliant. Primal is a gorgeous show. There ain't anything else on TV that looks like it. Why? Because Genndy knows how to work within the system. Now he's in a system where they respect him, and he's in a high level position. But he's an artist, and he's creative, and he knows how to get it done, and he's getting it done. But if Genndy wasn't working for Cartoon Network or whoever he's working for, he'd probably be doing it on his own. Knowing him, I don't know, but he would have enough business sense to know how do I work the system anyway. This is what you guys have got to do. Well, anyway, I hope I've inspired you a little bit. That's been my desire. If you're wondering what this animation is on the screen here that you're seeing, this is from a little short that I'm doing on my on my YouTube channel called "The Story So Far." It's a scene from that. It's a little film I just did for the fun. This program that you see here is Rough Animator. And it's a very inexpensive program for those of you who never used it. This is the desktop version of it. You can use it on your iPad, but you can also get it for a desktop. The desktop version is $10. The iPad version is $5, $4.99, I think. And a very user-friendly program. You can do color and everything with it, so it's very nice. Excuse me. And you can make your whole. I've made whole projects on this thing, very cheaply. It's you can do paint. Yes, you can do paint. It takes sound files if you want to animate the sound files. It does all that. So anyway, I just wanted to encourage you. I think that's the thing that's important right now is encouraging you guys, because I know sometimes it can just seem kind of hopeless. But it's not hopeless, okay? The industry is what it is. It's but that doesn't mean that you can't find a way around things. And I go to Lightbox Expo. I've been to it. I was at it this past time. It was last year. I was there. And once again, I want to compliment all of you young folks. A lot of you just doing some really fantastic stuff. I'm so impressed when I see all you young people doing all this lovely animation and having fun and creating your own characters. That's awesome. Just keep doing that. And don't give up on the animation industry. But you are the animation industry. You can make it be what you want to be. I hope to, at some point, maybe have more to say about how to make these things happen. Because I'm in the process of kind of wanting to do some of that myself, come out of retirement maybe or whatever, and have my own studio again, because I did have my own studio at one point, on top of all the other stuff I've done. But I just want to encourage you young folks to not give up and to not think like, well, animation's it's just not a good thing to be in, not profitable anymore. Yeah, the industry has changed dramatically to the favor of the companies that run it. But that's how progress is. That's what it's going to do. So you have to adapt. That's the key thing, is adapting. And our union, like Chris said, has only so much power. I've been in this animators unit, cartoonist unit for years. We've never had the kind of power that we like. We have had some, but there's it's just the way we make stuff is expensive, because it takes generally so many of us to do it. Some of that has changed now because of the fact that we can do things digitally, and that's changed, but it still takes a lot of people to make these things, so that's why it costs so much. But the same thing is true for live action, so there you go. Anyways, I'm trying not to make this video too long. It's getting long. All right. Well, anyway, look. Have a beautiful day, folks, and don't give up. Keep drawing. Keep creating. Keep going to the conventions. Keep encouraging each other. Think outside the box, and look for opportunities to be your own business person, and collaborate with others who think like you. And some of us old birds will try to help you where we can. I'm certainly always going to be trying to encourage as much as I can. So the future of the business and the future of the craft, the art form, is you young people. Don't quit. All right, and once again, don't forget, Jesus is Lord.